Hi, everyone. My name is Bruce Lombardo, and today, with a girl, some guys, and a movie, we're watching the 1981 David Cronenberg classic, Scanners, Michael Ironside, Stephen Lack, and Jennifer O'Neill. And I know I
Mhm.
put that out of order from how they're billed on the film, but if you understood our frustration with some of the issues here, you'd understand why I placed Michael Ironside at the top of the list. Because damn it, if he is not the shining star of this movie.
Mhm.
How are you today?
Who, me?
Yes, ma'am.
Doing well.
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
And Six Nations, you have Dr. Ruth on your avatar there.
Uh,
It's
It's
funny.
funny because
It took a minute for it to connect because it is Dr. Ruth in the movie.
yes,
It's
it is.
that,
There is a
not that
Dr.
one.
it's,
Yes,
it's not Patrick Good as Paul Ruth, but I'm glad you guys got the joke.
Yeah, it was
he,
funny.
he he's a damn good actor.
Mhm.
I love him.
Yeah, he was in this movie. Him and Lawrence Dane are both supporting, and they do a fine job in this movie. Like they're really the scenes they're in. I felt were really good. Really, as far as they could be impactful, they did great. Um, Jennifer O'Neill was just telling these two that she's been basically sold as a Mrs. Robinson all of her life. She
Yeah.
was tracking a young boy in a Summer of 42 film where
Hmm.
she had a young kid, the next door boy that fell in love with her because her husband was in the war. And then after that, she did this, some other films. Hey, Crafting Gamer. And then she did a TV show called Cover Girl, which was neat, but it only lasted like maybe a season and a half. And one of the forgotten stars of the 80s, John Eric Hexum, he died in the middle of filming that show. He was on a TV show called The Voyagers, which some of you may remember
Oh
with
yeah.
Punky Brewster's
Wow.
older brother. But she was on that show as a photographer, and she would take a young military guy out and as her model, and they would go photograph stuff while he went and blew up things. Interesting show. CoverGirl was awesome, but eventually got canceled because of the problems and the death of John Eric Hexum on set. Not really good. So anyway, now that I've kind of helped you with that, this movie also stars Michael Ironside, which is one of the greatest actors that the 80s and 90s ever gave us. And fuck, if this is not the best debut movie I've ever seen for it, because within 13 minutes of the movie, he comes out with a bang. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll
he was
shut up.
good.
It's
He did a
absolutely.
great job in this movie.
It's hard for Michael Ironside to be bad. Like his TV appearances, his movies, video games, like every role he plays is entertaining, which is
Yeah.
great.
If you're saying that, I think we need to view Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone in 3D at
Yes,
some point.
I've never seen it.
Oh,
it's an extravaganza.
Yeah, because
it-
he was in that other one we did with the creatures, right? That they hunted down. I can't remember the name of it right this second. It was like some kind of aliens that we went to another planet to kill them.
You can't blame a guy for Cyborg Nookie. I'm
So
just saying.
yeah, I'm not going to blame Michael Ironside for any B movies he may have done. God damn, that man is a gift.
yeah,
He's
he's a good actor.
he's so good. Uh, he was in Starship Troopers and Total
Oh, that's
Recall.
it, Starship Troopers. I couldn't remember the name of it, but yeah, I remember we did that not very long ago.
Razak's Roughnecks. I mean, fuck.
Mhm.
The guy is he's the gift to celluloid. I mean, when I have a big bad guy in my D&D games, I want I really want to have my bad guys have that Michael Ironside energy. I really do. He's so good.
Yes, for a critical role, just get
He's
some
just
classic actors involved.
Yeah, he's just really good at, just like I said, that's really hard to act in a scene without dialogue, when you're just sitting there and you're trying to get people to believe what's happening in front of you, while just moving and facial expressions and stuff that he had to do when he was like duping this guy to think that he's going to get scanned. But when he's doing the opposite, he's over scanning this guy so his head explodes. And I just thought it was a genius scene, and that takes a lot of work. Even the other guy that was opposite of him, he had very good facial expressions too, to make the scene believable and as intense as it was, because it ends with a bang, if you know what I mean. It's really good. I just loved it. I thought that was a really good scene.
All right, one of our chat members doesn't get the joke here.
The old lady.
Jeremy,
Okay.
I'm in character as Dr. Ruth.
if you saw the movie,
was in the
Dr.
movie.
Ruth is in this film. Not that Dr. Ruth, but a Dr. Ruth. And it's funny as shit. Oh. Yeah, Pat McGowan, what a fucking Chad. And the movie, it picks up, it starts going, and like 30 minutes in, after the first act has clearly concluded, the second act is, you've got a couple car chases, a few pyrotechnics, but it's largely forgettable for me. I'm not.
The one scene, you have to admit, the one scene where they have Michael Ironside in the back seat, okay, and they have him with a gun to him, they're going to kill him, and the other car comes speeding by, and he supposedly has control of the driver, right? It crashes and explodes, and you can see it's engulfed in flames inside of the car, right? But the driver of the other car has to get out and save him. I just thought that was ridiculous. And then they stand outside of the car and argue in front of a huge explosion, fire going on, and not expecting anyone to come and say, oh man, what are you guys doing here? That type of thing. Some of the scenes were kind of hokey and really stupid, but it had to give them time alone in the vehicle. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. A few things like that did take me out.
They were mentally
of the story.
influenced by a scanner. Yeah, the corpses were burning in the car, but in his mind, which was the perfect setup.
Oh, well, it could have been that, but what we saw, from what I could tell from the scene, was he had control of the driver of the other vehicle that crashed, right? And then he took over the guy with the gun that was pointing at him to kill him. It didn't come across to me at all that the two other guys were being controlled to stay out of the vehicle.
Okay, I got to explain something to Jeremy here, because Jeremy
doesn't know who Dr. Ruth is.
You sweet summer child. Back in the 80s and 70s, America was really puritanical when it came to sex. We were stupid about sex. We love violence. We love cuss words. We'll have that on national primetime TV. No problem. But don't you dare have an exposed titty. Don't you dare have a man and woman with their parts exposed. And so there was this cultural phenomenon of this Nazi doctor named Dr. Ruth Westenheimer, and she would get on the prime time in America, and she would talk to the people about sex, everything about sex, and you would hear her talk about anal and fellatio, and she would tell you these things. And if you paid attention to Dr. Ruth Westenheimer, she was the best sex doctor that we ever had. But for some odd reason, they kept putting her on camera, and she had this gig until she was an AIDS wrinkle factory in her late 80s. She's still on TV trying to tell you how to treat your hard-on. It was so disgusting. Nobody wants to see a 95-year-old woman talk about your erection.
But they did. Wasn't it real popular? Wasn't she very popular?
Yes, she was super popular. Yeah, you go on YouTube and look at the views of the Dr. Ruth snippets and such, and that shit gets fucking viewed. That shit gets content, because she had actual knowledge, and it was so hilarious. But the thing is that Americans were so puritanical, we had to have that educate us about sex. I couldn't have a woman like Jennifer O'Neill or God bless Janet, Janet could not talk about sex on American TV because Janet would cause a fucking rush to the pharmacy. Every man that was born from 1935 to modern day that could drive a vehicle would be rushing the pharmacist right now saying, I got to get some blue pills. Janet's telling me how I can have a hard on for 4 hours, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be veiny and strong. Oh, yeah. And it's going to be this huge fucking problem. But that's the thing. You can't have Americans get fed this shit because otherwise, like, we just take it too far. Look at the porn industry. We can't have a woman who's good looking talk to us and educate us about sex. As much as I would love to have a mentor like Janet in my teenage years feed me and nurture me, I don't think I think I'd probably run it in the wrong direction.
Jeremy says he'll pay you 50 cents.
Oh man, Jeremy.
I hope he's not saying that to me.
That you underbid.
Because I've given him advice and I haven't asked for any money.
Sex. Do you want to know what sex is? Okay. So there we go, Jeremy. But yeah, there's a Dr. Ruthens movie played by Pat McGowan. He's the same actor that played the King Edward the Longshanks in Braveheart, 1995.
Braveheart. Yeah.
And
well, he's the reason the whole story, even there was a story.
He's been in
right?
a ton of stuff. He's a great actor.
Yeah. Go ahead, Janet. What do you mean there's a whole reason?
Well, the reason that Dr. Ruth was in the story is because he was the story, basically.
He was like a benign.
He was the reason
Dr.
all of
Friggin
it happened. So, yeah, kind of.
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of.
He did work for a.
What was good
private
about
military.
this was the fact that all the stuff that's going on right now on TV and news and commercials and in blogs and YouTube. I've gotten take off YouTube a few times for talking about certain pharmaceutical companies, and what they make. So this movie was really good when it came to that part of about how some company might make something that's harmful to people and how they kind of cover it up.
Biocarbon conglomerate or an amalgamate. That's what it was. Biocarbon amalgamate was the big evil. I almost said the P word. It was the big evil corporation that makes the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was supposed to be a anti-nausea medicine for women back in the day. So it has reference and allusions to like thalidomide in real life.
Mm-hmm.
This movie came out during the late 70s craze of.
There was another movie too that came out around the same time as this, right? Wasn't it called the one with Drew Barrymore, Firestarter?
Oh, that was 2 or 3 years later.
Okay, but that also had the same theme,
84.
kind of the beginning about people being injected with stuff or taking certain drugs and having it have effects on the kids, the from the pregnant women. So, they had a lot of stuff about the drugs causing different problems with the next generation or even farther down. So that was pretty interesting.
We have the whatchamacallit, remote viewing program in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So the psychic spies of the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
So all this was driving in a time where we weren't really knowledgeable of what was going on with our own government, but it's funny how this touches base on some the drug industry. Unrestrained science and technology, and then what the implications of psychic research could hold. So, you got Consec, which was the private security company.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like the Blackwater of psychic research. And then Biocarbon was the facilitator of that drug that eventually made all the scanners.
Yeah, and
So
they
if you
were
guys aren't
helping him
familiar
out.
with the background of the story of scanners,
Mhm.
there's a group of rebel psychics who want to take over the world, and our main character is trained to confront the head bad guy, which was played by Michael Ironside, and the shenanigans involved with that.
Well, one of the other things that to me that really stuck in my craw watching this was the fact that you have this company supposedly that is making a product and they're giving it to pregnant women, which is a no-no anyways, to give it to humans at all when it's not been tested on animals and all that. So they were like secretly doing things that they weren't supposed to, right? Which is what we're finding out more and more about with labs. And then once they find out there is side effects, they still sell the corporation to someone else and let them sell it, and wash their hands of the problem and just pass it, kick it down the street like we see our Congress and stuff do all the time. Just kick the can down the road and let someone else deal with it, even though they made lots of money, off of it. So that
Trust
whole
the science.
concept was
It's safe
believable.
and effective.
Yeah. So
Trust the science. It's safe and effective.
that's right. Safe and effective. Because it worked. It just had side effects, until people start being born with 2 heads and 4 arms and 6 eyes and things like that. Maybe then the government will do something. But see, they won't, because as long as it doesn't happen to them, they could care less as long as there's enough money in the bank. You know what I mean? It's sad because that it happens, and they can make entertaining movies and TV shows using the same concept, because why not? It can happen.
I don't know. Like, thalidomide made flipper babies, and that was horrible.
Yeah.
And they eventually canceled it. But ephemeral, making super psychics that you can blow up people's heads and hack computers and stuff, that might be a seller.
It was pretty gruesome.
You wouldn't need a VPN. You just, make a funny face, fire up the dial-up, bam. Watch Netflix in Asia or something.
But I was trying to look up what was the name of the company that did the special effects for this.
It wasn't really a company. It was just a
Well,
couple
it says,
of guys.
makeup artist Dick Smith. He did The Exorcist and Amadeus, provided the prosthetics for the cinematic scanner duel and the iconic exploding head effect. Chris Wallace, working at Lucasfilm at the time and later providing effects for the work in The Fly and Naked Lunch, also worked on the exploding head effect. I never saw Naked Lunch, so I had no idea what was going on.
I have no idea what Naked Lunch is either.
I saw it a long time ago as a kid, and I don't remember much. Except for the giant fly.
Cronenberg later said that in 2006 that The Scanners was his most difficult film to shoot due to the special effects and the complex story. Well, yeah, I can definitely agree with that, because that is very, very hard to do some of it. And what was funny is that they were saying some of the stuff that I was reading online about, maybe it says it here. It says the iconic head explosion scene was produced by trial and error, with the producers eventually deciding on a gelatin encased plaster skull packed with leftover burgers, as well as latex scraps, some wax, and just bits and bobs, and a lot of stringy stuff that we figured could fly through the air a little better. And when the other explosive techniques failed to give the desired effect, special effects supervisor Gary Zeller told the crew to roll the cameras and get inside their trucks with the doors and windows closed. He then crouched down behind the dummy head and shot it in the back of the head with a shotgun. The exploding head scene was filmed 4 times, but Cronenberg accepted the first shot and did not remain to watch the 3 others, opting to instead take a nap in his Winnebago. The scene depicting the exploding head was trimmed down to allow for an R rating. So it's just
that you know what this reminds me of?
I don't know. It's just amazing to me. But go ahead. What does it remind you of?
6 Nations. You know what this, like, discussing the exploding head.
And then it said
What'd you
he
get, Matt?
originally intended for the scene to be in the film opening, but placed it later in the film after test screenings.
Like,
So I thought it was placed well because it kind of drew you in to try to find out more about what scanners were. And then the fact,
Dawn
the
of the
whole
Dead.
thing on the stairs, when the guy's holding his head up like he was, on the stairs, pressing on his back and holding his face up, but he's not watching the doctor give him a shot. So that scene was kind of funny to me. So there were a few little areas in there that either it was the camera angles or it was the editing that made it look stupid. You know what I mean? So I think it was a combination of the editing and the angles the cameraman decided to use, with the director's orders or whatever. But what do you guys think about it? Nothing.
I think you're right.
I mean, like that one scene I'm talking about where he's supposed to be giving them the drug, to calm him down so he can't scan anyone and make anyone else's head explode, because you think all of them, after just seeing what they just saw happen to that man, and he was a scanner, that they would try to be a little more careful about this guy, since he just blew a guy's head off basically with his mind. And then they're just kind of like him on around, not even care whether he really gets a shot. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just thought that was kind of stupid.
Oh.
So I don't know if it was the director.
Yeah.
Or,
it was
yeah.
Similar gore. I'm shocked.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was a good scene. I remember that.
I thought you were going to reference more head exploding.
No. I thought that was enough.
Yeah, but that was a good scene. That was very realistic.
No. Like, both of those scenes for me are equal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
both were very, very good.
Discussed, like, how you properly film a character's ending on a movie or a story, but between the poor schlupp that we don't even know the first scanner's name. He's just billed as the first scanner. He might have said it in the film. It's played by Luis Del Grande,
mm-hmm.
and he's been in a bunch of movies and stuff until like this last year. But that guy, we don't know anything about him except he's talks about scanners. Anybody raise your hand, blah blah blah, and then his head completely vaporizes on camera. And
but it was pretty good how they did the scene leading up to that, though. They had everybody sitting in the chairs, and they all had badges, and they seemed authentic, people. And then when he asked, people are looking around the room to see if anyone else is going to raise their hand, because they don't want to be the one to do it, because they said it's going to hurt a little bit, blah blah blah. And then you have the one guy that says, "Sure, I'll do it. What do you want me to close my eyes?" He's trying to act. It was just funny leading up to it. And then all the facial expressions and the body motions and stuff, it made it intense, it more intense. And then the camera pans over to the two other gentlemen that are in charge of running what they were just about to see. And then you see the doctor look at the other guy going, something's wrong. You could tell something wasn't right. And then next thing you know, the guy's head explodes. So I thought that was a really good scene leading up to that. That was great.
I think that Scanners is a potentially great masterpiece, but the budget completely sinks the movie. Like, on just a couple of things, it doesn't destroy it, but it sinks it from masterpiece down to like between good and great. And
the script wasn't complete.
Yeah, the script wasn't complete.
You're gonna have gaps and whatnot.
Yeah,
the script not being complete hurt it, but if it would have had $100,000 more, fuck, they there's like 3 scenes that I can think of where they went and did the Canon Films route. God bless you, Canon Films.
Mhm.
But like, let's explode some older cars. We gotta get these tax write-offs in. We're in Canada. Let's blow up some 1972 cars or 1974 tanker pieces of shit, you know. And it's just it's fucking miserable when you have. And I'm not saying the film is miserable, but when you look at the film and you're like, that was really good, except, and then you start pulling it apart and you're like, fuck, if they just would have had like a week for him to finish the script and maybe 100K more, that movie would have been almost flawless. For them just staring at each other, you're just thinking about all the shit going on in their heads and watching nosebleeds happen and fissures develop in the skin. A little more money would have been crazy.
Well, like that scene at the end when the two brothers are dueling, right?
Yeah.
With their minds,
Mhm.
and you see their faces with the veins popping out and blood shooting out, all that different stuff until his eyes explode and he catches on fire. I mean, it was really gruesome. But when you see the after effect of the burnt body and stuff, it's very realistic and looked really gruesome.
I
But then when you see
love
yeah, but when you see the brother, that you saw his face basically exploding with blood vessels and, you know, just it was horrid looking. And then all of a sudden you see him again, his eyes are blue, but you don't see the scars all over his face or anything like that. So little things like that would have been more added more to the scene if they'd left the damage, you know, from what would have happened to him if he'd been through that. So little things like that, I didn't, you know,
Have
approve
you
of. I
never
didn't
heard of
that
psychic
that to me
healing?
took away from the scene. Do what?
Psychic healing?
Well, no, because they
Where they
weren't
go
healers.
and remove the cancer out of people's bodies, but it's actually chicken livers.
I guess maybe, but Bush is saying that
Sleight of hand.
he saw that the SFX crew kept trying to make the head explode. You just missed it. We were talking about. I read the part about how the director ended up taking a shotgun and shooting in the back to make it explode the way they wanted it to. So
Very practical effects.
yeah, it's pretty good.
the practical effects in this movie. Like, I'm amazed at how people just get really inventive when here's your special effects budget and there's $10, and then you have a movie that completely just blows you away with, well, here's some things we had in the prop drawer for the past 10 years, and
Yeah.
they're allowing us to use this. I'm amazed. This movie is fantastic about that. It's a shame that the studio, it feels like it's there, like we've discussed, like the middle part of the movie for me was kind of meh, and there's like the main actor, I kind of felt bad for him because just can't afford acting school, and he doesn't know how to be an actor. He doesn't know how to do voice inflection.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that myself.
And then you have Jennifer O'Neill, where she doesn't really have to act a whole lot, but she almost has nothing to do in this film except for a nosebleed. You know, and she's kind of like in the audience character if the audience was really super hot.
Well, I honestly believe if I could see what was edited out of the movie, that they edited out a lot of things that she was in.
I would bet you're right.
Because like the scene in the
I concur.
museum when she was in there, and you see her come up and see him and see him and see that he has a bloody nose, that she knew that because she's a scanner, she knew that he was a scanner, and that her boss or whatever at the museum was scanned. Okay, and she was looking immediately for somebody. So little things like that made me think that maybe They did a whole wardrobe change and stuff like that a few times without even having anything for her to be in or involved in. And then the parts from the house, I think maybe that she had more parts, more
She had
lines
more
and stuff.
depth probably in
Yeah.
the cutting room floor.
I'm pretty sure. That's why I said a lot of times the editor is trying to get rid of stuff because their time, they have to have, they want the film to be a certain minutes, so many minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they are told, hey, I want you to edit this many minutes out, but the director doesn't give them direction on what he wants in more of, like don't cut anything out of this scene. Don't cut any, you know what I'm saying? To keep
Yeah.
certain things in. And sometimes the editor just cuts out things. Like I said, a few times you'd see it. It's not a seamless movie. It's like choppy because the editor just went, just cutting out the stuff that to make the movie to so many minutes, certain things like that. And that's when, I say that had bad editing because the rest of the film seemed pretty good. But this one, definitely the editing had a lot to do with, because it just seemed choppy in certain areas. So, but you could definitely tell it was cheap when it came to some of the pyrotechnics and the special effects. And the one actor, he really had a hard time, emoting his voice. He just was very bland. He just had no emotion. But just like what Six Nations said earlier, is that it could have been because he was trying to portray someone with a blank slate, that basically had nothing. But even if you were a blank slate and you were impressed or put into environment, okay, over a few weeks, you're going to start having like, wow, what's that? You see emotions of some type, but you saw none, basically. So, that to me took me out of the film. But all the other actors, I thought Dr. Ruth, I thought Ironside was really good. And even the facial expressions on the people that came in the barn to take out the one guy, even they had a good facial emotion. So to me, the casting director did a pretty good job at hiring people, because basically they went in and they probably had to act out a scene where they're being scanned. You know what I mean? And see how they would react to be able to get them on there. It's just that I'm really surprised on the process of why they picked this one gentleman to play Cameron Vale. I would like to know more about that.
I wonder if his inability to act I can't say it. I shouldn't, because like it feels like he's in there like almost like a tax write-off.
Maybe. I mean, it could be that does happen. Just like I said, I've been on many sets where we're all doing a certain scene and we're all dived in, into our parts. And then here comes a producer, and they're a producer because they have this little area behind the director where his camera and stuff sat, and it's a bunch of high seats, right, with the name of the film on the back. And they just come in and sit down and they start watching, and then you'll see them talk to the director, and all of a sudden here comes some more people come in, and then they start moving things around because they're putting in their niece or their mother or whatever in a scene, and they have to, they'll just be sitting there and not really speaking. They just want to see him in the film.
You think he's somebody's nephew?
It could be somebody. Somehow he might be related to someone to gotten that part, or somebody felt like they owed him something, or I don't know. It could be a lot of things, because a lot of people have gotten parts, and it was like that little boy that was in E.T. Something about him when he went in and he did that take, they just fell in love with him. The director fell in love with this kid, and that's why he got the lead part in E.T. And he did a good job.
Henry Thomas. Okay. Well, we'll definitely have to do an E.T. view party, because you're kind of I got to know your opinion on Henry Thomas. Did you not like him?
No, I thought it was great, but I'm saying every so often you'll get a young person or an actor that comes in and does a part, and even though they may not have been perfect in every aspect during the the casting call or whatever, but somebody sees it and then they say, I want to see this one person do something. So they come in and then they just go, oh my God, he's awesome. He's perfect for the part. So, and then you have a good actor You know what I mean? But sometimes you have another one that they're walking through the mall or whatever, and a director or a producer or somebody will see him and say, "Oh, I like this guy. I want him in for an interview for this part." And they'll go in, and even though they weren't very good, and the casting director's like, "Yeah, they're all right," they'll say, "Well, bring them back for another thing." You know what I mean? So sometimes people are pushed in, even though they shouldn't really be there. And every so often, you will have a good one, like what happened with E.T. and a few others. But most of the time, it's this guy. You see what I mean? Yeah. That's all I'm trying to say is that the process isn't always fair. So
I really think you're right on that, because the more I think about Stephen Lack and his inability to fucking perform on camera, he has to be related to somebody.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at his
lack.
Yeah, I'd have to go look at his breakdown, like the little boy that was in the original. What was the name of it? Charlie's Factory. The little blonde boy that was in the one with
Charlie.
Yeah, that played Charlie. I think that was the only movie he ever did, and he was a good little actor. So it really does depend on whether the person wants to be an actor, stay in being acting. Or a natural at it. The little kid that was in the movie with Bruce Willis, and he says, "I see dead people." Okay, he was a genius. I mean, he was nominated for Academy Award, and it was his first movie he'd ever done. So there are, glitches in the matrix where, wow, something iconic comes out of it, just a chance meeting or whatever. And then other times it's like, wow, what movie are we going to put this person in next? I don't know. I bet this person, I don't remember him in anything else. He's not very memorable, to me. But I'm not saying I'm perfect.
Well, the doctor,
I'm just saying for my needs.
The doctor in the film in the beginning, he was in Rabid. He had
Rabid. I don't know what that
previous
is.
connection with.
It's another Cronenberg
that was
film.
Another movie that
we could actually turn this into like a 4-month of Cronenberg and discuss all the various ways for body horror, Janet. It would be an interesting project. You'll hate me at the end of it, or at the midpoint, and then by the end you'll just be planning a trip to San Antonio, and you'll pay my wife money, and then the two of you will kill me.
Maybe. Don't put things like that in her head. Interesting. No, I was kidding.
Yeah. This Stephen Lack character, he's still in a lot of movies. He hasn't done a lot though, because he did things in the 70s, got noticed by Cronenberg, did The Rubber Gun, then Scanners.
What was The Rubber Gun? What was it about?
Rubber Gun has a 6.4 rating on IMDb. It's a communal drug family beginning to dissolve from within while a university student watches and records everything. So they've got a fucking test house with cameras, and a university student is there to be sober and watch the entire family that's like addict central just pull itself apart. And Stephen Lack...
Is he the student?
Stephen Lack is the main character. He's billed as the main character. And it looks like he's the father figure. So he's kind of like the perfect drug addict because he's got no personality. Drugs would be his personality in this movie.
Yeah, maybe. I'd have to see it. But see, just like you said, what was her name? Melanie Griffith? Okay, she was in Working Girl, right? Okay, I think that's the movie that made her famous or something. And I saw her, and it was an okay film. I thought she did okay in it. But once I saw that, and I saw her in the next film, and then I saw her in another, and I was like, she doesn't have any personality. She's exactly the same in every film. Well, so she basically is not an actress. She's just being herself. You see what I mean? She's just acting herself.
But she built a facility, and she made money because The Rock went to her school, and Jack Black went to her school, and all these other non-actors went to her school. They learned how to just play themselves.
Well, she ended up with what? Don Johnson? She was his lover and had a kid with him or something,
Yeah,
right?
they're still together.
Okay,
They're
well,
still a thing.
that's one reason why. And she was pretty and bubbly. You know, it's like,
Bubbly.
because
She was
I'm
quirky.
blonde, I don't have to think. I talk like a baby and I never pay for drinks. I mean, basically, that's her. Okay, you know what I mean? But
Flip
it
that.
helped her career, got her something. But she's the same way as this guy. I mean, to me, this guy is just anybody. I think could have pretty much anyone could have played that character better. That's what I'm not trying to be terrible, but you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to act like I like every movie because I don't. But I like this movie. I just don't like him. I mean, it would have been fine if
It's
they didn't have
unfortunate
him
we'll
in
never
there.
get a
As
remake.
much as I'm ripping apart this film, I'm giving it a favorable review because there's
Me
some
too.
really-
I am too.
There's some
Because
good
everything
stuff in
else
this
about
movie.
this film was
It-
good.
There's a lot about it to like.
Yeah, it's
Go
a
ahead.
good movie. It's just not a well done movie. It's not a polished movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it is an early film covering, you know, sci-fi horror, psychic powers, the nosebleed. This is like, I think, the first movie that does the nosebleed, which now later on, with all the other psychic movies that came out, you know, we get the weird twitchy faces and the nosebleeds and the headaches and so on and so forth. So yeah, the criticism is there and it's justified. But this is a good film. Like, it's a popcorn flick.
Definitely.
It's not going to be something that delves into the human psyche. It's just Cronenberg body horror and science fiction.
It doesn't provide a good narrative or a good story for us to talk about and say, wow, look at all these parallels between ephemeral and Pfizer, Moderna, and the vaccines, and how we were all supposed to get fixed, and now we're dying of myocarditis. You know,
I just want to bring something up. Haley Joel Osment that I was talking about. It wasn't his first movie. His first one was he was the little boy in Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Okay, but he was just a little. He was just dynamic little actor. I mean, oh my God, I bawled my eyes out every time I watched him in The Sixth Sense because my heart broke for him, and he was so adorable, cute, and he's a good actor.
I would love to invent a drug to de-age you and keep you at like 32 years old all your life. So every time you had a bad idea where you like saw a little boy or girl, like, oh my God, they're so cute, you get that working pain.
I get that ovaries. My ovaries start going, oh, I'm getting cramps. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I can't help it. I just love good acting, whether they're young or they're older or whatever. If they do a really good scene, just like I said, what was it? Cocoon, the two older actors that were in the movie, Tandy and Wilford, or what was his name?
Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, Brimley. Those two in that scene when they're talking about
like 55
getting erections, you know, getting erections after getting in the pool with those cocoons, right? And he said a cat couldn't scratch it. You know, they were just adorable. And then also the old guy that was in with the movie with oh God, what was the name of it? He was the dad, and he had the younger men, and they were going out and they ice fish. Grumpy Old Men. The father figure in that. He was hilarious, and he was a wonderful actor, and he was old. So, you know, I love, and I was giddy over them. I just thought they were adorable, you know. But yes, I like good acting that makes you happy and giddy and want to see the movie over and over again simply because you love the characters in it. And I love this movie enough that I've watched it, you know, at least 20 times. And I'm glad we watched it again. It was still good. It's just the one actor could have been replaced, and you don't see that a lot in a lot of movies. Remember, you see it and you'll say nobody could play that part.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But you couldn't say that about the lead in this one. To me,
I couldn't. Well, I'm gonna say that about both leads. I'm gonna say that about Stephen Lack and Jennifer O'Neill.
Yeah,
Jennifer O'Neill, like, she probably had a really good set of scenes that are no longer in the film. They're in a print, the director's cut, or they're in a trash bin in Canada somewhere, or in a landfill.
Definitely.
But Stephen Lack, he's got a resume. He's still doing stuff and making a payment on something. I don't know what he bought,
Yeah.
but the guy is still doing acting work, and he's fairly like he's back at it again because it's like 1988 to like to 1999 or 2000ish. He really wasn't in a whole lot. He didn't do a whole lot until recently when I guess they need a grandfather figure. Oh, grab Bob's nephew. He'll do it. He's cheap,
Mhm.
and it's just I don't think he's that great of an actor. And Jennifer O'Neill is a good actress. I've seen her act before. She didn't really do much in this film though. And I mean, I wonder if she's literally the audience character because it seems like a lot of the emotional beats for me hit when she was on screen and there would be a revelation.
Mhm.
And it just felt like for me she's more of the she's just one of us that's along for the ride, but she's also a psychic, and if she's in a jam she can get herself out of it. But she's really there for the audience's benefit, and she's good for the camera.
Yeah. Well, plus you needed a woman to break up all the men.
Yeah,
You know what I
this
mean?
was a heavy sausage movie.
So yeah, so that is why I honestly I think that's the only reason they put her in this movie in the first place in the script was the fact that they needed a female in it. Because if you even go back and you're looking at all the scenes with the laboratories and stuff, I didn't even see any women in there.
Mm-mm.
You know, in the background was all men, everywhere was men, and that's probably when they were reading the two scripts. Remember, they took two stories and
They
put
had
it
to
together.
smush two scripts together,
They
didn't
said,
they?
"Hey, we need a lady in here somewhere." You know, even when they talked about their mother, they didn't even have a flashback of a woman. You know what I mean? It was a drawing on a poster. So, you know, maybe that's it. But the thing is, and I really do believe there had to have been a couple other scenes that just didn't end up in the movie because they got cut out somehow.
Yeah, the only females in this movie were Kim, the hallucination of the security guard's mother, and then the lady
The two women
in
in
the
the
maternity
cafe. That's it.
clinic.
That's it.
Oh, and the two women in the cafe.
Mhm. But they were just like background, you know, they weren't even principal
Mhm.
actors. So
No.
I'm talking about principal actors in the movie that actually see the woman that was just in the scene staring at her son. She was basically, you know, a background actress. Basically, she didn't speak. She didn't have a speaking role, and she was only on a few seconds. So she's not a principal actress. So Jennifer O'Neill really was the only principal actress in the movie.
So
So,
I'm going to give this movie really high marks for their inventive use of practical effects.
mhm.
I love the final battle, and I love the aftermath of that. As much as you all think I want to make an Auschwitz movie, I don't, because we have films like this that show you one burned body. I
Mhm.
don't need to see 50 or 70 burned bodies or a bunch of people piled up around the shower heads. I don't need that. This movie had enough at the very end where I'm like, wow, that's fucking terrible. And I really thought like he was dead. I really thought he was gone. But with the way they did with the contact lenses, just that $7 or $12 special effect they did with the lenses on Michael Ironside and changing his voice, because he's an actor and he can change his voice, he can do inflection, he can
Mhm.
get in the character. Um, the way it ended, I was really impressed. And I hear there's like a movie or two after this in the series. I'm not certain.
There's two. Scanners 2. It's got David
I haven't
Hewitt
seen it.
from Stargate
Mhm.
Atlantis,
Okay.
who played the nerdy tech guy, and then the third one, I forget the gal's name, but it's a female lead, and it wasn't all that great. Neither was the second one, but like if you like schlock and you want to complete the trilogy, like you watch this and go, okay, this was pretty good, and then you watch those and go, oh god, it's getting progressively
I
worse. But there's a tiny part of me that likes at least this movie, and one I haven't seen enough to try and force myself to like it. It was just really bad.
um
The spin-off though, Scanner Cop.
Scanner Cop.
Yeah, it's about a cop that has psychic powers and he's going after a guy who's killing everybody. That guy actually played in both movies. So it's the only movie in the quote-unquote series or universe of Scanners where the lead character plays more than one role or stars in more than one role.
Okay. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there was a lot of, to me, there was a lot of really good scenes that I liked with the special effects that you could tell there was a lot of detail in the props and everything, like the record store. I mean, when the car went through it, there was records, there was shelves. It didn't look like a bunch of plaster Paris laying around like all fake shit they busted. You know what I mean? It looked like real shit laying everywhere. And then they went down the stairs and you saw signs, you know, from records and different stuff. It just looked authentic. So a lot of things like that, the detail, you could tell the props department and the special effects people were really trying to make it look as good as they could on the budget they had. So it wasn't from a lack of trying. It was just the fact that they had a low budget. To me, that didn't ruin the movie because, you know, sometimes I like movies that have, like, you know, like The Thing. It's one of my favorite movies. And you could tell in some of the scenes they just didn't have a lot of money, but I didn't give a shit. The movie story, the overall acting, everything else about the movie made it brought it up, even though some of it was cheap. And that's how I felt about this one. Ironside basically stole this movie. You know what I mean?
He does.
His character in this movie, to
Yeah.
me, was the shining star. I don't see it could have been this movie, wouldn't have been near as good if he wasn't in it and he wasn't the actor. And the other actor that played the other bad guy, not Dr. Ruth, the other guy, his secondhand man. Yeah, the security guy,
lead.
you know, boss or whatever, the one who made him blow up the computer, basically. He was a really good actor too. So his character had brought a lot of tension to the scenes that he was in. And I enjoyed that. So to me, the movie was, I just really liked it. And I would watch it again still, even though, you know, normally I would never even said anything about the actor, but because we're talking about it and this is what we're supposed to be doing, breaking it down, you know, that's just something you can't deny. You know, it's as plain as day, even though I thought he was very attractive and he had beautiful blue eyes. And that was important too. Maybe that might be one of the reasons why they really liked him and snagged onto him, because they want the difference between the brown-eyed brother and the blue-eyed brother at the end when they're combined into one. So it could be a lot of things, but you know, he did good overall, considering if his, you know, if his voice would have changed in different scenes, you know, things are blowing up and you know, and his voice does, you know, anyone's voice, just like I said, the scene where he got shot with the dart and he's hobbling around with his hand out, but he's not trying to take the dart out. Any person in real life would just immediately grab it and pull it out. That's what they tell you. If you skewer yourself and you know, they usually you're supposed to cut it off if it goes through your chest or different parts of your body, because you could bleed to death before you get to the hospital. So basically leaving it in there is a protection, but the immediate reaction for any person, for any type of impalement, whether it's a needle, a dart, you know, whatever, you want to take it out. So him hobbling around and jumping and climbing and hanging on the escalator and all that stuff with a thing sticking out of his hand, it just was comical to a degree for me in that one scene. Stuff like that. That's the kind of things that I would take away from the actual numbers.
The barn scene,
mm-hmm.
And I kind of touched on it before we started the video. So the artist, whatever the guy's name was, I keep forgetting. Anyhow,
Stephen Lack.
The artwork.
Oh,
yeah, the artwork was massive. Like, it wasn't just like, here we're going to up on the wall and this guy's going to be an artist and try to. Mm-hmm. The voice is in his head. No, it was like a full-blown, ginormous head where you could fit at least, you know, half a dozen people in it.
Yeah.
And
got a whole couch in there.
I have a feeling that the budget was a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. The script was a little bit more tighter. You know, you'd have this whole psychological aspect. Like it was an allegory of them both as scanners meeting each other for the first time, and then him getting into his head as he's dying and getting the information that he needs. Like they literally go into this guy's head that he created as part of his art.
Battle of the
You got
Minds.
the opening scene where it's the strange faces. There's also a nod to the Twilight Zone, if you remember the pig-faced nurse in that artwork. And then all the lines or wires coming down from the various faces to he's letting all the voices out, which kind of earlier video of Ravok where he's talking about releasing the pressure, and he had drilled his forehead, kind of where the pineal gland is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they would have done more with that scene, and it would have kind of tied in the whole idea of psychic or ESP and ability a little bit more. So like the audience isn't sitting there going like, what the fuck's going on? What is all this nonsense?
Mm-hmm.
They probably keep the explosions and car wrecks because at that time that was the big action thing. Didn't matter what it was. Got to blow up some cars and
That
have people set on fire and run around.
that blow up cars, like this movie does that really well with the limited budget. Like I don't know how much old 70s boatmobile would cost back in 81, but they really torched the shit out of some vehicles, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Well, they had a lot of pyrotechnics. The one scene where they're all in the house, the safe house together, and they're doing the mind meld and they're sitting around with pillows and things like that. That was pretty interesting, the way the camera panned around to see each of the people, and then you hear the words, blah, 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 going on. And then when the two people came in with guns and they were scanning them basically until they burst into flames.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you see them fly back into the walls and things like that. And there's flames in that. So there was quite a few pyrotechnic stuff going on in this whole movie. And when you have that, you have to have firemen on set. You got to have fire extinguishers. You got to have lots of different stuff. They have to have burn ointment. They have to have, everything ready to go for procedures for, insurance purposes alone. But they had quite a bit of it. They had quite a bit of pyrotechnics in this movie. And I like that. And the scene where the guy was getting gas and you saw the electrical line melt and fall from the pole down to the ground. I mean, that's a lot of intricate stuff they had going on, considering they had not a lot of money for a lot of other stuff. But I thought they did a really good job overall when it came to actual different things they needed for the scene to be believable, and then they blew up another car and the whole gas station, in that scene. So, to me, they did the best they could to make it as exciting as they possibly could, even though you couldn't really see someone using their mind to control other people or a computer, that type of thing. So I thought I thought it was really well done, considering the budget and the fact they had so many problems on set without this, the script being done and molding basically 3 stories into one, to get it to what it was. And I thought it was, the concept was pretty good and believable.
I can believe
the scene of the phone booth right before it explodes.
Yeah.
How he's holding the receiver and the receiver is like literally melting in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
That there was a super technical special effect, which could have been horrendous for whoever was holding it. And then moments later, they're running out of the phone booth and it explodes in a fiery, spark-filled explosion, which was awesome. The special effects were great. For the budget,
we know the story was pretty good because look at all the things they tried to make from it. Okay, you don't do that when it's not successful. I mean, they tried to make a TV show. They tried to make more movies. and other stuff to go along with that. And that takes a lot of work too, just to have people looking into doing it. You know what I mean? They're paying people. That means that it had to be a critical success somewhere for the overall, for the people that had invested money into it. So
sadly, we won't get a remake because I guess David Cronenberg hasn't signed off on the idea of making a remake. I'm not saying that the remake would probably replace the film, but it would be kind of like the 2004 Dawn of the Dead, where it was adjacent to the original. Like the originals, you can't touch them; they're awesome. But that 2000 pretty damn good for what it was. So maybe he'll change his mind, maybe he won't. Time will tell.
Or his family that gets it when they inherit it will do something with it.
Like
that happens a lot.
What was it? Barbara Broccoli, the whole James Bond fiasco going on right now. Ugh.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Another day. Barbara Broccoli sold the rights to Amazon of the James Bond franchise.
Oh yeah.
She's kind of woke.
I remember that now. So.
And James Bond is anything but woke.
So hopefully these people will love it as much as they should to make it good. You know what I'm saying? We'll see.
They're not.
It's
going to be another dead franchise. I can almost guarantee
it's going to kill the entire fucking franchise. Gone.
Well, they lost a lot of money then. They wasted it.
It's frustrating. I don't know if I speak for everybody here, but I've got to say that I actually think that the more time goes on, the more all of us that are getting older, no longer in our prime, we're watching the things that kind of helped shape us and our values, and we really treasure those pieces of media. We're just watching them get just graffiti, just get spray painted with bullshit all over it, because that's the only thing I could really pair it up to is like, you love this one part of town. You used to always go to this part of town. It was your favorite part. It had all the things you liked. And then one day, some civil engineers came and said, this would be better for everybody. And they rerouted the sewage plant discharge through your favorite part of town. And everything you love now is covered in shit. And that's completely what I feel like the woke movement, the cultural termites have done to the rest of us. Like they've said, we have shitty ideas, but everybody gets a shitty idea. And then they start throwing pies in our faces that are just manure pies. And I can't fucking stand it. Like I'm happy to keep doing this.
It's being destroyed for a reason.
I'm happy to do this show. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Marxists, they waste the past, so all you have to do is look towards the future, whatever their idea of the future is. Once that version of communism or socialism or Marxism, the ism, fails, someone will be like, well, that's not true ism. Here it is. And then they'll rehash the same old crap.
So here's my dad joke of the year. What did the socialists use before candlelight? Electricity.
I don't know. What did they use?
I was going to say a torch. I mean, I don't know.
Electricity. The fucking socialists had electricity before they made it outlawed. That fucking fags. I just I'm happy to do the show. We'll do the show until I'm corpse. Maybe if I decide to vote Democrat, I'll come back and I'll do this shit on Sundays too. But I'm completely happy doing this because we're watching older films, older media, when actual writing talent and somebody who had an idea of how to operate a camera is there making films or TV series. We haven't really done a TV series yet, except for like we talked about Star Trek.
Yeah, creativity was
Yeah,
still
creativity
around.
is still around. That's the thing.
It's
There wasn't
the
fear.
thing. All of the movies
Like everybody's afraid to
we
do
have
stuff.
we have been watching and talking about is entertainment. Okay.
Yeah.
People used to go to the movies to be entertained, to take them away from their daily grind of the crappy life they might have, how boring it is, or whatever, or to take them and let them see a whole new world or what could be possible, in the future, that type of thing, a wonder, or to go have a few laughs, or fall in love again, holding hands with their lover at the movie theater, things like that. That's what it used to be. And now it's like the government has mingled in with Hollywood and said, we're going to use all the entertainment industry now to force our agenda down your throat. And they'll come because there's nowhere else to go. They'll buy tickets, we'll make money, and we'll teach them. That's basically what I've been seeing, what's happened to the entertainment industry. It's not just in movies or TV, it's also in music, and books. So it's getting harder and harder for us to be able to just enjoy watching something anymore. And that's why, to me, when you have something like Yellowstone that comes along, or Lord of the Rings, different things, and you actually have a director and a group of people that say, we want to make it strictly for entertainment purposes, it ends up being good. You know what I mean? So, hopefully people in this industry want to start making money again, and make a blockbuster, because just like I said, unless they repair some of the things they've damaged, I don't think we're ever going to have another blockbuster. And that's sad to say, because that's what they're doing. They're
I'm going to
killing,
disagree with you on
they're
that.
killing it all.
I'm seriously, like, I don't want to say negative, but I disagree with you, because like last year, the actor that 90% of his movies I don't want to watch, Jason Statham,
Mhm.
he put out The Beekeeper. And I've never seen a movie that's more dedicated to giving fans what they want. Like that's his entire goal, is to make movies that his fans want to watch.
I know, and I love that movie. I saw the yeah. Aren't I the one that told you to watch it, that it was so good?
I
But I
don't
hope
know if
you
you
liked
did
it.
or somebody else did, but
Wow, it was great. Very
I
good
caught
movie.
it. I caught the movie, and it's just one of the better movies of 2024. And I mean, it's not a great movie. I think the ending completely sucked, but they want to make a series of films. There's a Beekeeper 2 coming out now.
Hmm.
There's something to be said about a movie that literally it speaks to the audience. And when you have the first bullshit happen to Felicia Assad, where her bank accounts and her charity accounts get drained,
Hmm.
like, I think every single one of us on panel, in chat, our friends, neighbors, we all know somebody who got taken to the bank and cleaned out by
Yep,
scammers or hackers.
scammers. Hmm.
And I think that movie does such a good job of taking this little happy baseball and completely smashing it out of the ballpark, where you have just a successful product. And that movie got rewarded because it was made for like 19 million or 24 million. It wasn't a great amount of money. It was a very low amount of money for that film, which was really kind of weird, because Jason Statham, he must do like 3 to 5 films a year if he's making money for that, making films like that,
Hmm.
because he just is a machine. He's actually giving quality, unlike Steven Seagal or Nick Cage, who are cranking out really bad 1-star films right now. Jason Statham is making movies that people want to watch. The Meg 1 and the Meg 2. I know a lot of people that won't shut up about those movies. They say those are some of the best shark movies that have been out since the Jaws. And
Yeah,
maybe
they were very well done.
so. I'm pretty impressed with that. And I think the way forth from the COVID pandemic bullshit that ruined everything we touched, trying to get our lives back, I think we're going to have this period of social healing. And I know that sounds terrible because that sounds really communist, but it's not. I think we need to get back and used to the idea that we need to educate people on what good quality things are. Because if we let Hollywood educate us on what good quality things are, we're never going to have Angel Film Studios make another film again. We're never going to have a good independent movie again. We're going to have nothing but Captain Marvel over and over and over and over. And it's not going to be the good Captain Marvel. It's not going to be Monica Rambeau. It's going to be Carol Danvers. And I would rather jack off with sandpaper every day, thrice daily, than watch one 5-minute fucking trailer clip of anything Carol Danvers. The most worthless fucking character in comics, and they make a movie about her, not just one, two. I don't want them to get it. And they've made a lot of money on Carol Danvers. Congrats to Marvel for selling shitty movies to stupid people. But movies like The Beekeeper, I think movies like that are going to kind of be the way forward. I think movies like that are going to be the way that, like, we have people talk about things, because that movie there actually invites a lot of conversation of how, fuck, I wish, like, we didn't have a parasite class that was able to navigate and rip people off so fucking easy. And I guess maybe I'm getting my wish, because now we actually do have a group of people that are out there doging their way through the day, getting rid of the parasite class. That's only in government right now, but it's a cultural revolution, and I think that maybe by this time next year we'll be closer to normal. And when I say normal, I mean like there will be 24-hour supermarkets. You'll be able to go to Denny's or Perkins or whatever local diner you want at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. and get your day started, or maybe your lunchtime in if you're like me. But I think that is going to happen, and I honestly feel that um, movies like this need to happen, because this is a big step up from modern day Hollywood. This movie has a lot more heart and soul in it than what early Marvel movies had in 2008, 2009, 2010. And I'm going to just use that as my, like, that's the bottom tier of entertainment. They have the same story over and over and over again for fucking 30 movies.
Well, we're in that cyclic part of society, whether you want to quote it as the weak men create tough times create strong men. That can be debated, or the Titler cycle, where we're coming out of apathy or dependence. We're not quite in bondage. Maybe we got more faith, and we just totally skipped the enslavement. But the longer this stuff happens, the powers that be, they're just hemorrhaging money in the box office, and they don't care, because the people that are funding them don't care. They just want to destroy IPs and to push an agenda, and people are just going to get sick of it and either turn off their TVs or walk out of the theaters like so many did. That's why our cinema industry is just gone to shit. Our drive-ins are completely, that's a thing of the past. Maybe we'll have somebody in digital media go, you know what, let's make our own channel. And then that will be the new beacon of light that will get other people to go, hey, yeah, we can break away from the old dinosaurs of Hollywood and mainstream media and do our own thing and get more private studios, more independent. So I would like to think that would be the case. I want to keep optimistic about it. People have surprised society in the past with their actions. And what looks like it would have been a sure thing or utter despair, we've climbed back from the brink. So, like I've always said, consume the old media wherever and however you can get it. Um, if you got VHS tapes, old DVDs, hell, 16 millimeter reels in a basement somewhere, like go consume that media and enjoy it and cherish it, because we've got over 100 years of cinema and programming that there's plenty of ideas out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the studios that want to rehash the same old half dozen plots,
Well,
they're
it's
going to
because
fail.
they already have it. You see what I mean? And normally, what they do is you have someone that says, "Hey, I've got a really interesting concept or a story that I've, or a script that I found," and then the producers or whatever look at it and say, "Yeah, we like it." So they go and they talk to the writer and they ask them to shelve it. That means that if you shelve it, you take like $2,000 and you shelve it for 6 months, which means you take it off the market and you don't show it to anyone. You can't market it for 6 months because you took the money. But now, as soon as the date is over again, the rights go back to the writer and they can do whatever they want. So, and honestly, there's lots and lots of movies that are shelved all the time because they don't want anyone else to be able to use it while they're thinking about it or looking into it to see whether or not they're going to do something with it. So, and then also they'll go out sometimes and just outright buy scripts. Like, let's say they find someone they like a script and they might give somebody, $4,000 for it and buy it outright, which means now the writer who did write it isn't allowed to market it, and they don't get anything from it, from the sale of it. So they might, like the movie The Snowman or whatever. I think it was not The Snowman, The Santa Claus. Okay, he sold that script for like $5,000, and they made 3 movies off it. They made multis of millions of dollars. So it just depends if you're lucky enough. And that's why I tell people, if you're a struggling writer, don't sell your stuff. Hold on to it. Do the best you can to hold on, because if you got a good story and they want it, sooner or later someone's going to buy it. It's just very hard for young people or anyone, even an older person, to get their product out there for people to read, because they don't want you to sell it. They want all the the rigmarole over it. Like the woman who did the Harry Potter series, from what I heard, before she was rich, she was basically living in the street almost, hardly eating and things like that, because she was just trying to get someone to read one of her stories. So once she got her books started selling, then she started making money, and then other people started noticing it. But it's getting the first person that matters to read your product, or see it, visualize it. And that's the hard part, is getting somebody to actually take you serious for your art, your story, or whatever it is you have.
Now look at Wendy and Richard Pini, who did ElfQuest.
Yep. There's lots of stories like that out there. But once they get their foot in the door and people take them serious, then they're able to branch out and do other things too. So, I just wish more young people that were writers or whatever else, because there's so many scammers out there. I saw so many of them. What they do is they approach young people that have written scripts or taken a class to write. And then you'll have someone approach them and say, "Hey, I'm a scripts person, blah, 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 to help you with your script." And then you pay them a few $1,000s and they'll supposedly tell you how to fix it and help you market it. But then nothing ever happens, because basically they're just tell you, "Oh, this is really good. You just need to rewrite this," or whatever. And they'll give you a few hints and that's it. Because basically the person really wants someone to see it. And because this person used to be in movies or used to be do this or that, they're able to make a living off of it. You know what I mean? And it's sad. It's sad that people have to basically most of their lives be scammed by other people simply because that other person might have been in one movie, and they just had a tiny line or something, and now they use that to get other people's money to make them think they're going to help them break into the business and things like that. Same thing with movies, like you've seen with the P. Diddy stuff that's coming out, is that a young up and coming singer that they saw in a lounge bar or whatever, they go in and say, hey, you come to one of this and I'll make you famous. You know what I mean? And they're dying to do it. And it's sad because, man, they people want to be famous so bad that they go through so much shit. And most of them don't get squat. It's like one person out of a million gets chosen to be a star, and because they're picked by the right people. So there's a documentary out with the girl that played Shirley Temple, that little actress, and she's talking in this about how her and her mother went to see the big producer, and the mother went into this one room with one person, and the Shirley Temple went to another one, and she doesn't know what's going on with her mom, but she says that she's in there, and the guy just walks up to her and he drops his pants to the ground, and she just said she looked at him and looked up at him and started laughing. Okay. And she said she was scared, but she didn't know what else to do. So she started laughing, and the guy got pissed off and told her to get the fuck out, basically. So she left. And then she said when she went out there, she saw her mom come out, frustrated, and they went out to the car, and she said they never talked about it. They just looked at each other and unhugged, and they went home. But she says it's been around for a long time, where they try to, push you around simply because you're in the wrong industry at the moment, if you know what I'm saying, with the wrong people. And, that's just the way it is. It doesn't matter what you're in. Someone will try to use you if they think that you're one of those people that can be used. So I tell people all the time, don't give up yourself for 15 minutes of fame. It's not worth it.
Yeah, seriously. So to switch gears and make it a little bit more positive.
Sorry.
If y'all have seen
Scanners,
Scanners, you might want to look into a movie directed by Tobe Hooper called Spontaneous Human Combustion. It's a 1990s film.
I haven't seen that.
It's got Brad Dourif, and it's a similar vein. Sam, the main character, Brad Dourif, finds out that he's a pyrokinetic, and that his parents were experimented on in a atomic bomb experiment, and all the wonderful special effects laden hijinks that ensue with people spontaneously combusting, explosions, etc.
I'm going to put this on our list of shit to talk about because I like the idea of Tobe Hooper films.
And it's called, what's it called? Something combustibles?
Spontaneous.
Okay. But you know what? I've seen a couple of documentaries about that really does happen.
Yeah.
That they have documented cases of people who burst into flames while they're sitting in a chair or laying in bed. Interesting.
I don't know if you guys remember the Time Life book, Mysteries of the Unexplained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Used to be advertised on
I have that book.
We had it. It's a little tiny article with a picture, the infamous picture of the partially consumed leg and the burnt
ashes.
chair, but the chair wasn't consumed in the flames. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a fond memory as a child, reading about Bigfoot and Nessie and weird UFO shit, and then spontaneous human combustion. I'm wondering what the hell that was all about.
Yeah, it's funny because
is it rayon? Someone wearing synthetic material and they just build up a static charge and just cook themselves, or was it some unexplained phenomenon?
I don't know. You think with the technology that we have today that they'd be able to figure out what would cause someone to be able to just burn up? Because even some of the shows I was watching, you would think if someone was really morbidly obese, like that 800-pound person, they had to break the wall out to get them out of there to take them to the hospital. that one person on their bed, that someone like that might be able to start on fire because of the fat content or whatever on their body. But most of these people are average sized people, that burn up. And some of them didn't even smoke. So, there's just lots of really interesting tidbits on that. To me, that would be a really good series for us to talk about somehow, like watch the movie and then watch a couple documentaries, you know what I mean? Or something. Because that to me is very interesting subject about spontaneous combustion. Because that's one thing I liked about this movie, as I said earlier, is the fact that we are electrical, right? And we're made up of 90 something percent water. Okay. And the fact that we could burst into flames like they did in the movie, I thought that was very cool because, once you dry up your moisture in your body, you're nothing left but basically dust. So I just thought those scenes were really, really good because to me, that's something I think could really happen to people, is to burst into flames. So I thought it was really good. But yeah, I'd like to watch that movie.
Okay. Next week, speaking of watching movies, we're watching a film called Willow. Little movie.
Oh, yay. Good. I love Willow.
Maybe somebody remembers that movie, but Spielberg and Lucas collaborated, and Ron Howard's involved with it somehow as well. But looks like it's going to be a fun weekend. If you guys have actually, for those of you that are watching us, put your rating, your review, your score for Scanners in the chat, and I'll have one of our great two co-hosts here read
Well,
that.
did you already give your rating, Bruce?
Let me give it. Now, IMDb gives this movie a 6.7, and I actually think that's low. I think that's really low because of how the fact that this movie had very little of a budget, but yet the film itself, nobody is quiet about this movie when you start talking about it. Our conversation between the three of us when we start talking about this film, and we just go on about the ideas of the various human telepathy and the various pyrotechnics, pyroclastic capabilities of certain psionics in society, and the fact that we all are really kind of we're willing to discuss paranormal. I think 90% of America, 90% of all people believe in something like that, because we've had something similar to it kind of happen where like we've read somebody's mind, or we've had an instance where we knew it was going to happen before it happened, or maybe we had a dream where we watched a friend's car get in a wreck. Something of these things, something like that. We've had that own personal intersection in our life where I've got this deja vu just happened, and we've all seen that. And so this movie, I think, really speaks to people on levels that probably are uncomfortable. I would give Scanners a 75 out of 100 because of the fact that the director of photography wasn't really too inventive with his shots. I mean, this movie's filmed almost like a 1980s sitcom or crime drama, where there's not a lot of elevated shots with dollied cameras coming down and doing dynamic work. It's just all like over the shoulder cameras or out the window cameras, easy ways to make the shots and get things on film. And Cronenberg, he saves his money shots. There's about, I'd say, 8 different scenes in this movie that you go back to and you're like, that was really good. That was really good. That fucking exploding head scene, that was really good. And that's probably the king piece of this movie. But the car chases, the car explosions, those are really fucking amazing. The final scene where you have both psychics there trying to make each other's heads burst, that was crazy. I've got to give it a 75, and I'd be robbing myself of the enjoyment that I had when I watched this movie I'd be lying to myself if I said it rated higher or lower. I think this is a easy 75%. It's not the greatest movie in the world. There's some issues with it. We've discussed it. But I will probably come back to this movie in the near future. Janet?
Well, my score, I was going to give it an 8 out of 10. And the reason why is because I thought the overall concept of the story, and knowing that it was 3 different stories made into one because they couldn't all agree on what was best out of each thing. So they took a little of all of it, you know what I mean, and made it into one, which I thought was genius. Really, it's a really, really good, believable concept to me for the story. And it's intriguing the way that they put it all together. But the 3 scenes that I absolutely love that makes this movie iconic for me were, well, number one, of course, is the part where the one head explodes while Michael Ironside is acting like he's straining when he really isn't. Basically, to him, it was really, really easy to do it. He just dragged it out as long as he wanted. And then the next scene that I loved, that I thought was the second best one, was the scene in the phone booth where Cameron Vale is scanning the computer, this huge, ginormous computer, to get the data from it that they need to find out about Project Ripe or whatever. And that's when the other guy switches the switch to make it self-detonate. So basically he's connected to the computer when it's detonating, and he has a like an overload or whatever, and it causes the power lines to melt and some other things. And I thought the special effects for that whole scene were really, really good. And it was a really good scene. To me, it was the best scene that the actor that plays Cameron Vale did in this, the most believable scene for me in this scene, in this movie. And then the third one is the duel between the 2 brothers trying to overpower each other with their minds. And the younger brother, maybe it's because he hadn't been doing it as long as his brother was able to do it, his body wasn't able to keep up with the other brother's body. But overall, he appeared to have had a stronger mind than his brother when it came to righteousness and pushing something to fruition or whatever type thing. At least that's how I got it from the part. But the scene was great. I thought those 3 scenes in this movie were just awesome, considering it's a sci-fi horror movie. And to me, it was really, really good. So it's one of my top sci-fi horrors, even though it had a lower budget and everything. But it's just a really, really good movie. And I've seen it like 21 times now. But it's a really good. But if you know anyone that likes sci-fi or horror and they haven't seen this movie, this is one I definitely recommend that you get and watch it with them, because it's very enjoyable. It's very entertaining. And I think you'll have a wonderful time watching it. And then afterward, the discussion you're going to have, because I don't know a single person who's ever watched this movie and didn't talk about it afterward, because it brings up so many different things that actually I believe could happen. Because I do believe that the mind is so powerful that it can heal people. It can do a lot of things. It can damage people, and it can be damaged if it's not handled properly. If you get into the wrong hands, I really do believe in brainwashing and all that. It's different stuff. So that's why MK Ultra and all these other conspiracy theories that go on with that type of stuff with mind control is so powerful still. And that's one reason why I think this movie was so good and so entertaining, is because we all believe in some type of mind control and telekinesis and other things like that. So that's my score, an 8 out of 10.
Well, I guess that just leaves me now. Huh? All right. Well, I'm going to go back to when I was a kid. I want to say early to mid 80s, VHS, the cover with Michael Ironsides. Basically, the last couple of scenes, his eyes have turned white and he gets all veiny and bubbly and whatnot. Scared the crap out of me. And my parents had got it. And my parents, being the way that they are, let me watch it. And I was thinking, whoa, what the hell is this? With that head exploding scene. And then I'm watching it, and I don't understand a damn thing about psychic powers other than, like, You know, the television psychics that want you to call the 800 number, or you know, what was it, Sylvia Brown, and all that. But it intrigued me, so I started getting into all that paranormal stuff, Time Life books, etc., Fate magazine. And then 1991 hits, and we get the complete Psionicist handbook for D&D, and I'm thinking, cool. This is going to be like Jedis and frickin' all the trippy psychic movies that I saw throughout those years. And it got me thinking about, you know, psionics and whether ESP is real, and if it is, like, how does it work? Where does this ability come from? How are we geared to use it and whatnot? And so, watching this movie over the years, it gets me to think more and more about, like, how great this movie could have been with a better budget, with a more tighter script, with more ability to express what they were trying to.
Mhm.
This is like a super condensed Campbell soup version of what it could be. It had a ton of potential. I
Agree.
don't know about the main character, really vanilla, but this is a great movie
Mhm.
for what it had to deal with. It did it in spades. Your mileage may vary, but I'm going to give it a 75, maybe 76, because there's some things that I noticed today, and it's piqued my interest again. I'm going to have to probably watch this another 3 or 4 times. So I'll make it, what, like 30, 40 times that I've seen this movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely good. It's above the banal 5 out of 10, or the 6.7 that IMDb put out there, because there's deeper stuff going on. It's not just, you know, oh, it's another Cronenberg body horror film. No, this is like science and body horror and horror. Like, the implications. It's not just like the blood and guts. It's like, at the end, the um, Ravok is trying to kill Vale, and Vale actually imprints his mind onto the mind and body of his older brother. And now they're, what, 2 consciousness in the same body? Or did he completely overwrite it, like wipe him like a floppy disk and then imprint himself on there? We never know. In the sequels, they don't continue the story. It's something completely different. So this is a movie that gives you a lot of food for thought. It helps you to appreciate low budget and struggling films when you start analyzing it. And in the long run, you crave more of these type of films. So, like, yeah, upper 75, 76% easily. Well worth the watch. If you watch it as a popcorn flick, you're going to love it. If you want to analyze the hell out of it, get a bunch of friends together. You'll waste hours discussing this stuff. It's great. And it's available on Tubi for free, so there's no excuse to not see it.
Isn't it also on YouTube right
Yeah.
now?
I just saw it on
Because
YouTube.
Balzette was saying she hasn't seen it before,
You stream
and
it off YouTube.
yeah, you can see it. You can watch it off YouTube, so, which is great for right now. Yeah.
Rain Scan's pretty good. I love Screamers. Screamers is probably my favorite of the films that were inspired from the works of Philip K. Dick. As much as I love Blade Runner, I think Screamers does even a better job because of the fucking horror that the fucking horror that goes through your head when you think about what's really going on under the surface of that fucking planet.
Can you put that on our list?
Screamers?
Yeah.
We already watched it.
We did? When?
Last year. It had Peter
What?
Weller, Jennifer Rubin.
That one. Okay. I was thinking it was a totally different one. I was
Robots.
thinking that. I thought Screamers was the one with the kid, Matthew Broderick. What movie was that he was in? Oh, I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I thought it sounded familiar, but I thought it had a totally different name, the one we watched, but I remember that one now.
It's a special place in hell for
Matthew
Sylvia
Broderick.
Browne.
He was in War Games.
No, yeah, that guy. I thought he
Inspector
was in
Gadget.
another one, but it was like a Scammers, Screamers, or something like that. I'll have to look it up.
He's one actor. Ever since I found out he married who he married, I don't watch his shit.
And they're still married.
Are you talking about the hacking movie Sneakers?
Maybe that's it. I don't know. It just that's what I was thinking when I saw it, and I was thinking about him being in a movie. So that's why I didn't say. I haven't seen that movie because I don't know a movie with Jet.
Have you seen this movie?
Johnny Mnemonic was good.
You've never seen Johnny Mnemonic?
For what it was.
Oh, that's a really good analog cyberpunk movie.
I haven't seen it. I'll have to watch the trailer so I can make sure I hadn't seen it. But yeah, I saw the one with the one you were talking about.
Yeah. I next week we're gonna watch Willow. I'm gonna be trying to find a way where I could share the movie Suitable Flesh, because I think Suitable Flesh needs to be on our fucking list of shit to watch. Just the trailers of that look good. You've got Heather Graham and Barbara Crampton in it. That's two ladies that made young boys advance to men very quickly. If you saw License to Drive in your pubescent years, Janet, as a man, like Heather Graham was on your like dream girl list for years.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah, William Gibson's fucking
good old
great.
Bill Gibson.
Okay.
Go ahead, 6.
Oh, I was agreeing with the comment of Bill Gibson.
William Gibson's fucking amazing. Kind of weird. These guys are just making pants. We'll have to get into that discussion later. That's one of his books. He's a really good author. Inspired some early techno cyber shit. Nemesis. That's the other one I want to watch with you too. Have you seen Nemesis, Josh?
It sounds
Nemesis,
familiar.
That had that French guy in it. What was his name?
What's the story about?
He was like
Nemesis is kind of like an early cyberpunk movie where like people are getting like artificial parts installed in their bodies, and more it's certain upgrades are illegal, and so it's kind of convoluted. It's mainly there for like the stunt work. The movie is there for all the stunt work you see.
So I don't think I've seen it then, because I don't remember anything like that.
Olivier Gruner.
Yes,
right? That's the dude's name.
Yes, Gruner.
Okay. I had a hard time.
I think he's in 1, 2, and 3. He might be in there might be more, but I know there's 3 Nemesis movies I've watched.
There's 3 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I haven't seen them then. Mm-mm.
And the dude's a martial artist, so like all the action is at least passable.
I don't know.
I'd say it's decent.
I don't know if he. I didn't watch Walker Texas Ranger as much as I do like Chuck Norris.
He did like Shotokan karate,
Chuck Norris got AIDS?
No, Olivia Gruner. But okay.
Chuck Norris doesn't get AIDS. AIDS gets Chuck Norris.
AIDS gets prolonged by Chuck Norris.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years since I've heard any of those Chuck Norris things.
But they're true.
I just haven't heard any in a long time. I used to hear them all the time, it seemed like, and then all of a sudden, nothing.
There was a period of time where we had Betty White and everything, and Betty White jokes going around, and like, get a vagina, they can take a pounding. And then there was this big period of emptiness. And then, like, hey, Betty's going to turn 100. And then one fucking month before that happened, she passes. And I'm like, fuck. And I'm kind of worried that we're hitting this period of quiet for Chuck. We're not going to hear much about Chuck Norris. We're just going to have like USA action movie festivals or like Nick Weiser time. And then like Chuck Norris is broadcasting from his deathbed where he's finally agreeing to give up life. I'm like, no, you know, I don't want to say goodbye to Chuck.
He's not giving up his life. He's just taking over.
The very first
death.
meme I ever saw, a Chuck Norris meme I ever saw, and I just loved it. And I had a cutout of it on my refrigerator for years. And it was a woman in a full body cast laying in a bed, and she had her arms on the you know, like those strings holding her arms and stuff. Yeah, and she said, I had a sexy night with, or a sex-filled night with Chuck Norris, but it was worth it. I just love that. I just absolutely love that. And I just cut that out and I kept it because it was so funny. And after that, I started looking for more and more of them to see, because I just thought it was just hilarious. The fact that, and I bet Chuck Norris got a kick out of it for a long time with all these funny little stuff about him.
Yeah. The elderly talking about sex kind of wigs out some people. See what we said earlier about Dr. Ruth Westenheimer.
Yeah. I thought that was so funny.
Thank you, Bowsette. We're going to probably leave unless
when it comes
do you have
to
anything
sex,
else to share with the class?
The most important 6 inches are in between your ears.
Mm-hmm.
True quote, Dr. Ruth.
Janet, you have anything for us?
No, I can't think of anything else. I think you should. If you haven't seen this movie, you definitely need to watch it. And if you do watch it, Bowsette, please, let us know what you thought about it. We'd like to hear some feedback.
Yeah, I would love to hear what people thought about this movie. Is my rating of 75 too low? Is it too high? I think there's a lot to enjoy in this film.
I think it's spot on.
Yeah,
I mean, they even have the Cusack Cataract in one scene.
They have what?
The Cusack Cataract. The abomination. the psychic baby.
Yep.
Yeah, the psychic child.
Like in June when
while the lady's pregnant, she's there scanning.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
that was kind of scary. That whole scene to me.
I wasn't getting it at first. I didn't get it until she explained it to me.
Oh, really? Because when her nose started running and they showed her the baby's stomach, I was like, oh shit, she's getting scanned by the child. And that's when I started putting things together. I'm talking about from the first time I ever saw it. That was a scary thought to me, because just like I said, what's going on right now with all the pharmaceutical stuff and the harmful side effects and stuff that people are starting to have with the, just tons of, we don't even know. We probably won't know for 50 years, really, whether it passes on to the next generation or anything. We don't really know. But to not know what's happening to your child because you took a jab or you ate something that was infected, it's scary. And as a mom that actually carried a baby in my stomach, that to me was a scary scene. The very first time I watched it, because you just don't know what you're consuming and how it might affect your child.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's hit up the taglines before we cut this out, because these are some classic taglines if you remember advertisements from the 80s for movies.
Mm-hmm.
There are 4 billion people on Earth. 237 are scanners. They have the most terrifying powers ever created, and they're winning. Bum, bum, bum.
Wow.
Their thoughts can kill. 10 seconds, the pain begins. 15 seconds, you can't breathe. 20 seconds, you explode.
Yeah.
Classic.
Everybody have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday for the movie Willow.
Bye, everyone.
I'm looking forward to that.